There was a photograph Marilyn Monroe kept for years. Not one of the famous ones, not the ones the magazines ran, not the ones the studios carefully arranged. A small, private photograph of a kitchen. An ordinary kitchen somewhere in America, with a wooden table and chairs and light coming through a window. Nobody famous in it, nobody performing. Just the quiet evidence of a life where ordinary evenings happened. She kept it because she wanted it. Not the glamour, not the cameras. A table like that, people around it who meant something to her. An evening that was simply hers. Marilyn Monroe was born Norma Jean Mortensen in Los Angeles in June of 1926. And from the very beginning, the life she was given was one of instability rather than the ordinary warmth she would spend the rest of her years quietly searching for. Her mother could not care for her. Her father was absent. She moved through foster homes, more than a dozen of them, and through each one she carried the same private wish, that somewhere there was a place she belonged. People who would stay. A table where she had a seat that was always hers. The ordinary continuity that most children take entirely for granted. She never took it for granted. She had never been given enough of it to take for granted. She spoke about this wish across her entire adult life, in interviews and in private conversations, and in the journals she kept, where the public face of Marilyn Monroe was set aside, and Norma Jean simply wrote what she felt. She wrote about wanting children. She wrote about wanting a home that was genuinely hers. She wrote about wanting to cook a meal for people she loved and have them sit down and eat it and stay afterward, in no particular hurry, because they wanted to be there. She wrote about this, the same wish, in various forms, across years of a career that was producing everything the world thought she should want. The films, the recognition, the scale of the attention that surrounded her everywhere she went. And inside all of it, quietly and consistently, the same private wish persisted. A table. People who stayed. An ordinary evening. She married 3 times. Each marriage began with real feeling, genuine love, or what felt like it, or what she hoped might become it. And each ended with the particular grief that comes when something you wanted very much has turned out not to be quite what it appeared. The marriages failed for different reasons in different ways, but the underlying wish they had been reaching toward did not change. She still wanted what the kitchen photograph represented. She still believed, in the part of her that kept believing through the disappointments, that it was possible. That somewhere there was a life that felt like home, and that she might still find her way to it. In her final years, the years that were full of professional difficulty and personal complexity, she did something that surprised some people who knew her. She began, quietly, to build toward the ordinary. She bought a home in Brentwood, the first home she had ever purchased herself, the first place that was entirely hers. She furnished it simply, in a way that was different from the glamorous spaces the public expected her to inhabit. She planted things in the garden. She cooked. She spent time with people she chose for herself rather than for the professional reasons that had structured so many of her relationships. She was, in those final months, moving, slowly, imperfectly, with the difficulty that surrounded everything in those years, toward the life she had been wanting. The ordinary evenings, the chosen company, the home that was simply hers. She was getting there, in her own time, with the tools she had. Getting there. Maybe you understand something of that wish. Not necessarily the specific circumstances, the instability of her childhood, the particular form her longing took, but the underlying thing, the wish for something simpler than what you have been pursuing, the private understanding that what you most want is not the impressive version, but the ordinary one. The table, the people who stay, the evening that belongs to you. That understanding, when it arrives, is not a failure of ambition. It is a clarification of what actually matters. A return to something more essential than what the world rewards. The world rewards the visible, the achievements that can be photographed and catalogued and presented as evidence of a life well lived. And there is nothing wrong with those things. They are real, and they have their value, and the effort that produces them is genuine. But they are not, for most people, the things that fill the particular quiet place that needs filling. The place that Marilyn Monroe was trying to fill. The place that wants not the applause, but the presence. Not the recognition, but the belonging. Not the photograph on the magazine, but the photograph of the kitchen, the ordinary, private, unhurried evidence of a life where simple love happens. She understood this about herself. That is worth saying clearly. She was not confused about what she wanted. She knew. She had always known. The wish was not hidden from her. It was one of the clearest things in her interior life. What was difficult was not the knowing, but the getting there. The building, from the specific circumstances of her specific life, of the ordinary warmth she had needed from the beginning. She was still in that building when she died, still moving toward it, still bringing it closer than it had been. There's something worth carrying from that, something about the ongoing nature of the building. The ordinary life we want is not a destination we arrive at and then simply inhabit. It is something we build daily in the small choices about how we spend the time and who we spend it with, and what we allow to be important. Marilyn Monroe was building it. In the Brentwood house, in the garden, in the cooking and the chosen company, and the simple hours that she was, at the end, finally allowing herself to have. The building was real, and it was producing something. The ordinary warmth was arriving, imperfectly, incompletely, but arriving. And that is not a small thing. That is, in fact, everything. What are you building toward? What is the private version of the kitchen photograph? The simple thing that represents what you most genuinely want, underneath the impressive version you may have been pursuing. It is worth naming, and worth building toward with whatever you have, starting in whatever ordinary moment is available right now. Not waiting for the perfect circumstances, not waiting until everything else is settled. Beginning now, in the small choices, to move toward the life that is actually yours, rather than the one the world rewards. So take a slow breath, and think for a moment about the table you want. Not metaphorically, though the metaphor is useful. The specific, ordinary life you are working toward. The people you want around you. The evenings you want to be having. The simple warmth you have been, perhaps, deferring to some later chapter when things are more settled. That chapter is available now. Not in its final form, but in the small, daily, building version of it. In the invitation extended to someone who matters. In the evening kept free for no productive purpose whatsoever. In the meal cooked with attention for people who deserve the attention. In the ordinary things that are, finally, the things worth everything. Marilyn Monroe knew this, and she was building toward it. And so are you. Keep building. One more thing worth sitting with here. Something about the wish itself and what it tells you. The private wish for the ordinary, for the simple warmth of belonging, of being known in the specific and unhurried way that a chosen life makes possible, is not a small wish. It feels small, sometimes, set against the large ambitions the world encourages. But it is not small. It is, in fact, the most important thing. The hunger for it, when it is present, is pointing towards something true, something about what a human life is actually for. Not the record of accomplishment, though accomplishment has its place, but the quality of the love. The warmth that was present in the specific evenings that were fully inhabited. The people who felt, in your presence, that they were genuinely known. Those are the things that, at the end of a long life, constitute the actual answer to the question of what it was for. Marilyn Monroe carried her wish for the ordinary with her through 36 years of a life that was, in almost every other way, extraordinary. The wish persisted through everything, through the career and the marriages and the public life that made her face one of the most recognized on earth. It persisted because it was real, because it was, underneath everything else, what she most genuinely needed. And in the final months, she was giving it the room it had always deserved. She was living more than she had in years, toward the ordinary warmth she had wanted since childhood. That was not a small thing. That was the most important work of her life. And it was just beginning. Your version of that work is available too, in the specific, ordinary, unhurried choices that build the life you actually want, rather than the one you have been performing. In the warmth you extend, in the evenings you protect, in the people you choose to have near you, in the simple, quiet, irreplaceable belonging that is the real heart of a life worth living. That is what Marilyn Monroe was reaching for. It is what we are all reaching for, in our own ways. And it is closer than it sometimes seems. It is often, in fact, already here, already available, in the people who are with you right now. You only need to see it, and to let it be enough. Because it is. It always was.